as our fearless leader, Hayden Nelson, is not with us again. I guess he's just quitting podcasting altogether because I was brought on as more of a backup guy that you would never hear from ever in a million years. And now I have to put on a real voice to do this. But I am here with Maddie. Maddie, how you doing this week?
I think there's only two choices for where Hayden can be. Number one, he's washing dishes in a casino somewhere to make up for his gambling losses from the Super Bowl. Or, I don't know if you're in our group chat. It turned out during the week that Hayden and I are both fans of the same science fiction series by Pierce Brown, the Red Rising series. If anyone out there has read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It is a traumatizing series. Everyone you love will die in horrible ways and heartbreaking ways. And when I found out that Hayden was a fan of the series, I started texting him privately and told him some things that the author has told me about plot points that were supposed to be until, you know, like I said, characters die. And I think I broke him.
Awesome.
He
I
literally,
will say,
like, all of his texts were in all caps with lots of punctuation.
no worries. Yeah, I will say that that's like next on my list. Like I said
Mm.
last episode, I am getting through the Mistborn series, so right after that, I'll do some Red Rising. But nevertheless, you're doing all good this week and ready to talk Real Salt Lake, right?
Yeesh.
Yeah. We went through a lot last episode, so and the club actually hasn't announced too like too many moves. But we do have a new DP in town. So Morgan Gulavagi. That
Giavo-
is my
Gia-
best.
Giavogi.
Giavogi. Giavogi
Yep.
was announced, and I saw his like entrance interview, and it was really positive. It was a lot of smiles. He smiled through the entire thing, and he said that he's really a team player. He wants to, you know, the ball, make sure that there's goals, and he really wants to mesh with Gozo, that he said is a bright young star, and Victor, which is, I'm very high on Victor as well. So he stated also, I thought this was interesting, that the club wanted to bring him in a year and a half ago. So
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty revealing. But we talked about him a lot last episode. But is there any other thoughts coming as we, announced it as a club?
I have been and remain disappointed with a lot of the negative reaction to him because of what he did or didn't do in league. So let me pose you this question. Do you think that the amount of money RSL spent on him would be well spent if we could go back in time and they were spending that money on Denis Bouanga?
Yeah, and then they come from similar leagues and backgrounds, correct? Vinny
Well, I'm
Bawanga.
asking for a reason. I think that 99% of RSL fans would admit that given the chance to get Denis Bouanga back when he came to LAFC, they would jump all over it. If you look at their numbers side by side, just in League Two, very similar. So
Yeah,
that's the rabbit hole that I was in when I was supposed to be logging into this. When I was
and
so late that
New
you're
York.
texting me like, dude, are you coming?
No worries. Sorry for interrupting, but I know too. New York FC was in talks with a guy that also had the same numbers in League Two in France as Morgan, and that deal didn't come to fruition for some reason. There's actually some bad there if you want to look that up. But
Depends on
New
who you
York
ask,
FC,
right?
yeah, almost got a DP. I would say the similar numbers and for a similar price as well. I wouldn't say I didn't see all their fan reactions, but I would say it was generally positive. So that was like the first bit of news from last week. And overall, I'm excited to see Morgan, and I'm glad that we have a DP to start the season. To be honest, that is 1,000,000% better than where we started last year. So we're
All
not
I'm saying
playing for
is
Sturjago.
I will not tolerate Forster Ajago slander on this podcast, but I just want to stay on point there and say that Denis Bouanga in League Two had 71 appearances, 25 goals. Giavogi in League Two, not counting when he was on loan to the Bundesliga, where he led a team in goal scoring in the Bundesliga against Bundesliga competition. But in League Two, he had 82 appearances, 26 goals. So 11 more games, one more goal. I was trying to track down assists, which is not as easy as you might think for League Two players, but I'm excited for this player to come. And also, I'm excited to see when Forster Ajago makes it back to MLS and shows people what he can do when he's not asked to do what he can't do.
Also, I will, I'm rooting for the best for him as well. Okay, the second piece of news announced was a trade for internationals, which is only to the midway through the season. It's only to when the secondary transfer opens. That international spot, I just forgot who was it from. It was from Austin, I believe.
I don't pay
I gotta
attention.
get that up.
I know that we bought one for what, 250, 350, something like that.
Yeah.
So the way the Arias loan purchase option works, there's a club option at the end to add an extra year. So essentially, he could be under RSL's control until 2030 if it works out. But Kurt and the rest of the front office are structuring these deals to give RSL flexibility, not just with how they pay them, but how long they keep them. Right? We saw the flexibility. We saw what happens when you don't have flexibility with Diogo Gonçalves. We saw what happens when you do have flexibility with Juan Cruz. So again, Kurt doing a bang up job, in my opinion. That's just me making sure that if it doesn't work out the way that we want it to, everybody moves along. I like it.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I was gonna ask you about Arias and what do you think he needs to do or prove to the fans or prove to the FO for RSL to trigger that loan option. But that's later, I promise.
Oh.
But yeah, I just wanted to go through. We do have 10 international spots right now. Kurt did do an interview with ESPN 700, said we had 9. We get 8 every year from the league. We get 1 from San Jose for a player they don't even have anymore. And then we get 10 from Austin FC. We do have 12 international players, but he does say that there are going to be some green cards coming. And one of those international players, I actually didn't he would have a big role in the squad, and that was Sergi Sloans. But he has been getting praised by Pablo every single interview that I actually do think we're going to see the UCLA striker. So that was another piece of news from this week. Diego Rocio, which we already talked about, and don't really have to go alone to Club America. Then we actually have a game. So, Maddie, any thoughts the 1-1 draw, the USL Championship squad?
I mean, it's tough to have any thoughts because I couldn't watch the stream, right? I was happy to see that Xavier Gozo got a goal. I was unhappy to see that Pablo Ruiz came out injured after 20 minutes, right? I guess we have to talk about his loan deal falling through. But other than that, I mean, I have no way to evaluate. All I saw was tweets about essentially like line changes. It seemed like every 10 minutes they were taking 6 guys out and putting new 6 guys in there. So,
and according to the match recap that they did on RSL.com, Ruiz did come out with like a knee knock. So they said it was hopefully that means it's not bad. Gozo did play right wing back, I believe, and was playing with Trialist, which is another position where Pablo Mastroeni said Gozo can play. I actually never thought about that, but if you want all 3 players, Morgan, Victor, and Gozo on the field, that's where you're going to see him. I do think that Marchuk should get a fair shout because I love his attitude. I love the energy he's bringing into preseason after essentially a loan and, a difficult year. But Gozo did play very well, and I believe Lucas Moisa was one of those players that contributed to the assist or maybe a hockey assist on that goal. and he came in for Pablo Ruiz. Another player that I'm really high on as well. Uh, Additionally, I see that Ruben Masalis, a player that is contracted with the Monarchs as of now, nothing official. Pablo says it all the time. He's very impressed with this young player. He is a left wing back, but also a left center back. I would say that because we're very deep in that position, he probably is going to be a break in case emergency. You know, he's probably not going to start above Engel, not above Sanabria, Petranas, but it is he is a good player. I loved watching him for the Real Monarchs, and he is one of the players that we have to owe this like what formation change to, because the reason why the Monarchs started three in the back was because Masalis and Tommy Silva, who has gone to Detroit, were playing so well. And so it gave Mark Lowry a problem. Like, I need to play both of these players at the same time. How am I going to do that? He did the three in the back system, which they played pretty much, I would say, the second half of the Real Monarchs like, season, Maddie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
did well, and that assistant coach, their assistant coach, Jamal, went up and is now the first team assistant coach, and you can see that formation and that identity is now with the first team. So I know that was a lot, but yeah, Ruben Masalis, I think he's a player to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a first team, but I wouldn't also be surprised if he's remains a Monarch, gets his 5 call-ups, and next year maybe is integrated with the team. Additionally, Aiden Hazarkani, I really like him. I have a question for you, Maddie. How many minutes do you expect Aiden to get with the first team this season?
Oof.
Over and under, like over 300, under 300. Tell me.
I'd put the over under at 454 for the
454.
whole season. And I'll tell you right now, I'm taking the over. And I'm taking it with all of the depth we have at his preferred position, which is right midfield.
Yeah.
I'm usually high on Aiden Hazarkani.
Yeah, I love Aiden Hazarkani. He is very mature for his age. He has, he's a big stature, and he has some defensive qualities too, I've noticed. When I watch him play with the Monarchs, he is a guy that gets back and he'll get that ball back for you. So Aiden, I really like that about him, and he's getting more minutes this preseason than I kind of expected. But to me, he's my breakout young academy kid for this next season. I don't know if you have one in mind, but Gozo was mine last year. Kind of more, that was a little bit more predictable. But Aiden, who has already been seen with the first team, played against in MLS. He's the guy that I see coming in, because I'm sorry for Lucas Moisa and Omar Marquez, but that CM is going to be hard to kind of get minutes for. I do see the potential there, but right wing Aiden Hazarkani has been great on both sides of the ball, according to Pablo Mastroeni. Any other thoughts on that, Maddie?
I can tell you that he's very coachable. So I was fortunate enough to be at his training sessions when he came up to the first team. He got some minutes in a road match. I think it was against LA, but don't hold me to that. And then he played the next week. And it's difficult for offensive players to get subbed into the game. I did a whole interview with Ant Poulos about this. And in that article, I mentioned there was a blink and you'll miss it clip in that week's Hablo con Pablo, where you could see Aiden Hazarkani at halftime going over stuff with Ant on a tablet while everyone else was, doing their things. He is such a student of the game, besides being, at this point, I almost don't know if we have to say that they're good soccer players, right? They're there for a reason. But he is such a student of the game, and is the word that Pablo used to me when I did that Hazarkani interview last year was coachable. He's very coachable. He comes to you with questions. He listens to what you have to say. Same things he said about Gozo. So I'd like to see him break out with the first team. I'd also like to see Luka Moisa get some minutes because I'm usually high on that kid as well. All three friends of the podcast, all three people that we've had interviewed here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. No, I love Aiden. I think too, if we move on from Gozo in the summer, I think Aiden gets a lot more minutes over 400. I would put it maybe around for him. I don't know. He's the player, but 700 or 800 minutes I could possibly see Aiden have because Morgan can play that right wing, right? So if we
Mhm.
do move on from Gozo in the summer, you can just put Morgan there. If not, and you probably will get another player in there too. You're gonna get some cash, but Aiden is ready, I think, to get more minutes with this team. Another thing that happened, and this is pretty much the last piece of official news, and I was expecting a San Ambria announcement, which I do think will probably come any day now. It's just, MLS will only allow you to announce it when MLS wants, really. But today, Juan Jose Arias, our new U22 center back from Nacional, is here on loan until summer with a mandatory. Well, okay, with an a purchase option. Correct, Maddie?
Correct. And I did ask specifically if they had a buyback option on top of our purchase option, the way that Morgan had on his contract. And that question was not specifically answered, but I get the feeling that that's not a concern.
Yeah. No, it's great. I do. This is pretty much the same move we did with Nelson Palacio, and that's what makes me laugh about this. Is it's pretty much the same age, the same club, and for about the same amount. So it is a player that I think can do well with this club. I don't. Yeah, I believe I said it last episode that if Yedlin, does get moved to the bench and we're playing Arias a lot more, I wouldn't mind that. But Yedlin is also there, which is great. I What Pablo said in an interview too is he likes it when players have mentors, and
Mm.
Arias does have mentors. He has Yedlin, he has Glad, he has people to look up from. I feel bad, and I'm just gonna go on a little tangent. But I always thought about this. I feel bad for Bodie Hidalgo, who was learning right back and had pretty much no to look up to. You know, he like Brown was there for a minute. I feel like he got injured. Andrew Brody was there, but also Andrew Brody wasn't really a natural right back. I would say he was. I honestly think Andrew Brody would probably have been a better right wing back in this system. So I always felt bad for for Bodie Hidalgo because he didn't really have anyone to learn from. Remember it was just him and Noel Caliscan at right back last year, and and Noel's a fantastic player. We love Noel, and we know that he can do a lot of things in right back, but he really is a center midfielder. So Bodie Hidalgo, I hope he learns more in Montreal. Like that's all I hope. Like I think of. But Pablo says that he wants mentors for all these young players that we're bringing in. Like when you see Gozo, he's gonna learn from Morgan,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. You're gonna have these young players that need to look up to people like Moisa and Omar. So I really do think that it's a great U22 spot to use. Also, I've said it that the academy, you'll see it all the time. We just signed Van Parker. We don't have many defensive academy reinforcements, but that could change in the future years. What does Juan Jose Arias need to do, in your eyes, Maddie, to have our loan like purchase option triggered? Any expectations?
I mean, he could come in and be a day one starter. That would do it. But also, I
Yeah.
think if he comes in and is someone that when he does have to play, because we know that, especially on the outside backs, those are going to be highly subs positions, right? When you play with wing
Hmm.
backs, the amount of running that they're expected to do, I think Coach Lowry told me last year about Ruben Masalas. Like if he's playing the position correctly, he should be getting subbed at around 70 minutes. because he shouldn't be able to do what I'm asking him to do for any longer than that. So I think Arias is going to have plenty of chances to get minutes off the bench initially. But if he's someone that comes off the bench and the level doesn't drop, then trigger him. He's got all
Yeah.
the upside in the world. I don't mind if it takes a little while before he's a game in, game out starter.
And I do think that this purchase option, it's gonna be a lot of analyzing during practice than game day. Just like Kobe Henry. We all were like, "Oh, Kobe Henry, he didn't play that much for the first team. Why did we trigger this?" But if you
Because he was
talk to the
injured, man.
coaches,
Yeah,
well, yeah, yeah, he got injured, but also you talk
twice.
to the coaches, it's like he's doing what he needs to do, actually. Like when we see him play for Real Monarchs, he's doing pretty well. And like in practices. So I also think that Juan Arias is going to be one of those players that they're going to be looking at what's he doing in practice a lot more because maybe, you're going up against a big squad, you're going up against a Western Conference rival and you are going to put Yedlin because that's the safe bet. Yedlin, okay, MLS veteran. But knowing that Arias does have that potential and is doing everything he needs to do. So, and he's still young, a U22, right? So,
Yep.
I do think it's an interesting deal. Obviously, Maddie said it gives us flexibility, and that's pretty much for official news. I don't think I missed anything, right, Maddie?
Just Van Parker scoring a goal
That's true.
in the
For the
U17s for Canada. And then
was it one or two?
he scored a brace against Caymans, I think. And then in the next
Yeah.
game, he scored one. He missed quite a few chances apparently, but I didn't watch it. I was at work. Stupid job. But prompted a. I think I was talking to one of the communications team for RSL who works a lot with the Monarchs in the academy, and they accidentally brought up that the U.S. missed their chance not locking him down and letting him go to Canada. And I'm not sure that they were prepared for the text tirade that unleashed from me about Ernie Stewart and how he blew up our youth national team setup. And it has never been, for my money, repaired or brought back to the level that Tab Ramos had it when Tab was in charge of the whole thing. So
Mm.
it's not too
It's
late.
a, it,
Not too late,
yeah.
Van. You could come back to the Stars and Stripes, my friend. Don't think that you're going to get away from me at training. I'm going to say it every time I see you.
I would love that, but also for the success of the kid. If he's getting more minutes with Canada, then you go where your heart is and where they're treating you right. So no,
We
I think
talk, or
mhm,
you and I talk a lot about the developmental pathway that RSL has cultivated, created, developed, where players have a very clear path to follow from the academy to the Monarchs to RSL. And they know what they have to do every step of the way. And the club brings them along, and there's similar philosophies. When we interviewed Noel Caliscan last year, he talked about wanting to come to RSL when he had other options when he left Portland. And one of the reasons was because when he was in Portland, if he played for Portland too, when he got called up to the Timbers, it was a completely different style of play. And the managers were asking completely different things from him for each position, where the RSL way, not to coin a phrase that Tony Beltran has probably already copyrighted, is to have it flow through in a natural way. Well, to give you a short version of the tirade that I gave unnamed staffer last weekend, when Tab Ramos was running the US youth national team, you could go down age by age, right? Whether you were talking to Dave Vandenberg with the U15s, Brian Bliss with the U17s or the U16s, John Hackworth, all those coaches had this, they were asking the same things that Tab was asking from the U20s and the U22s when he did the Olympics. So that as the players came through it and as they aged into the next group, it was a prepared pathway. Nothing was a shock. They knew what was being asked of them. They knew what the standards were and what the requirements were. Canada's youth system is like that. Okay. But for any youth, for any USA fans out there, Ernie Stewart, love him as a player, came into U.S. soccer and decreed that we only want coaches who live in Canada. And half of Tab's staff left, or I'm sorry, don't live in Canada. He wanted everybody to live in Chicago. So
Yeah.
all the youth coaches left. And from that day to this, there has never been a day that I'm aware of when each age group, when they've all had a coach, a dedicated coach at the same time. It's always like, oh, who's going to coach the Olympics this year? Oh, we're going to borrow the U18 coach and he's going to do it. It's very shotgun. I wouldn't blame a young player in those circumstances from going to Canada instead, where they do have a defined path. And even if that path is not as worn and the treads are not as deep, you still have follow through from age group to age group.
For sure.
And man, I wish the US would be a little bit more like RSL that way and get back to that, because we're going to keep losing players. You know, Obed Vargas just went to Mexico. That's a harbinger of things to come.
And then Richie Ledesma just did his switch too, correct?
And who could blame him? It's
yeah.
I don't use the word shambles lightly, but the youth setup is shambolic since Tab left, my opinion. Just one man's opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't know as much about the U.S. men's national team. Of course, I keep up with it. I listen to Tom's podcast about it as well. But yeah, for sure, we want to keep, these players developing here at Real Salt Lake. And I do believe that we have one of the best development systems in MLS as of right now. And I really want to confirm this with Trey, but I do think that we have probably the most homegrowns playing in MLS professionally, like right now. Like for other teams, like we have like 4 right backs in East Coast right now with Aaron Herrera, Bodie Hidalgo. I mean, Brody just got out of contract, but we like Tate Schmidt was playing with Nashville. That's incredible, so maybe they don't find success here, but they find success, somewhere in the professional game. And you don't really see that for all these other MLS teams. So it's actually something that's pretty special about
San Jose can only dream of that kind of success.
Oh, they're don't talk to San Jose Academy parents. That's all I have to say, guys, because they don't have good things to say. Okay, I do want to get to unofficial news before asking our big question of off-season grades. I know that Juan Manuel Sanabria, it sounds like he's coming, just, official news just needs to pop out any day now. San Luis coach even confirmed that the player is not with the team, nor will be in the future. So that's pretty much good. And then Paulo Ruiz, this guy that, we love. I love PQ. And also I know Maddie does too, because he brings something different as a center midfielder. But he was going to leave on loan to Colo Colo, a Chilean, actually a big club in Chile. And it fell through. Oh, sorry, Maddie.
Never been relegated. Colo Colo.
Nice. Oh, Colo Colo. But I would say that it seemed like they were
Somebody watched a Bad Bunny performance last night. That's all he can think about now.
Me? Oh,
do you know what? Well, if I tell you what it means, we'll have to bleep it.
I know. But like my wife was trying to tell me, I was practicing for this. I was like, how do you pronounce it? And she was telling me. And for some reason, when I read it, I'm like, okay, that's what comes to my mind. But okay, anyways, we got to focus. His loan move falls through. How do you feel about that, Maddie?
I'm glad that we're going to get him back. I'm a huge Pablo Ruiz fan. I have been for years and years and years. I want him to get more minutes. I clearly remember we were talking before we turned the mics on. 2023, the entire attack was founded on him. And when he got hurt in that Leagues Cup match, everything went straight to heck in a handbasket. And then the next year, right as he came back strong, and then he got taken out in training, did his other knee. So incredible player, incredible person. Jimmy and I had this conversation last week on the show. I would have been happy to see him go if that makes him happy, but I'd rather him be happy in Utah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And we'll probably bring you guys news next week on how severe his injury is. So just wait on that for next week's episode. But we hope that everything is great. They said it was just a knock. So I like Pablo Ruiz. I do know that, and Maddie might hate me, he is on a high contract, but he is on the last year of his contract. So we'll see how things go. Negotiations might happen at the end or even be declined next winter and renegotiated. But I do like what he brings to the team. And our CMs, without him, I feel pretty bad because he is actually like the center midfielder that's played the most preseason minutes so far. Really. Like Noel Caliscan probably is up there as well, but Anelli has missed a lot of the preseason. I know Spearings has not been there for all of it, and Dylan actually even got a knock as well. So he he's one of those players that, as of right now, they said looked really good at the beginning, and they kept playing him. So obviously, Pablo Mastroeni sees the potential and wants this guy at the club. Okay, if that is what he wants and all that, because I wouldn't. To me, it's not logical to play a guy preseason minutes if you're just planning to offload him. Now, that's not saying that he won't be offloaded. I do think it will give the club some flexibility if he does, but for me, I expect him to really be here for the next season.
I know that the contract has somehow become a talking point. I would just say that first of all, I don't care what players get paid. It doesn't affect me in the slightest. Some guys get paid more than they should probably get paid. Some guys get paid less than they should probably get paid. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Everybody's agent gets them the best contract that they can. I don't think that Ruiz's contract was unfair when you consider how important he was to the team before he got injured, right?
Mhm.
Anybody can get injured. It's not his fault that he got injured. If he hadn't gotten injured, RSL would either be paying him DP wages by now or they would have flipped him for a couple $1,000,000. At which point, that $900,000 contract doesn't look bad. It only looks bad because he's been hurt. But that again, like not his fault. None of
Yeah.
those injuries. It's not like he wasn't rehabbing. He rehabbed. I saw him when he came back from his initial injury and he was bulked out. And everyone that
Yeah.
I've talked to at training this year told me that he's in even better shape than he was last year when he came in.
That
So,
that's what I've heard too.
yeah,
Mhm.
I just
No, I completely agree, and I'm hoping for the best. I do wanna just put that out for our listeners that as we are approaching the season, the window doesn't actually close until March 26th. So there could be some movement. I do think that majority of RSL's business is done for this offseason, but there could be some business until that March 26th deadline, I would say. But we have to I think it is already time that we can give off-season grades for this club. So, Maddie, what would you give? We're using the A through F. What would you give RSL off-season grade?
if Sanabria deal gets announced,
Yeah, let's assume that will get announced.
then I go A minus. They addressed every position of need that the team had. I love the idea of going to wingbacks. I there are some moves here that I think are under the radar. Okay. Getting rid of Diogo's contract shows intent. Like no matter what it takes, we're gonna get rid of this player's services and we're gonna move forward. I like that from ownership. I like that they went out and brought in a player who I believe can be very successful here in Morgan Giavogi. But if you look at all the various ways that RSL has brought players in, the reentry draft, right? Engel, home run. They brought in Spearings, could be a home run. Everyone's expecting him to be a day one starter next to a Mecca, right? Now we got
Mhm.
Sanabria and Arias. I low key love that we brought Marchuk back. Okay. I don't know how many times last year I said you can't talk about his stats when he's putting the ball on the spot and Katranis is launching it 30 feet up. There's nothing more that Dominic can do other than what he's doing. I'm ecstatic to see him back.
Yeah.
I don't know what else anybody could have asked for other than a $20 million player. But I don't think, number one, even if that ever becomes something that RSL does, right? At some point it will because of inflation. But shopping in those big windows, bringing in a Messi type player, maybe, maybe not. But to me, you bring in that player when you are almost there. You don't bring in that player and build around him, right? RSL looks to me like they have built a team that's going to be one big piece away, possibly, from a deep playoff run. And they've positioned themselves to be able to bring in one big player in the summertime window after the World Cup. I
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for more.
No, my only comment is we need Hayden back because we're
Hayden
the
would be
same.
like
We're
D-.
both yeah, like we're both so excited for the season. And
Yeah.
I put my grade, I put a B, but you're convincing me B plus. The only thing is they left a DP slot open, but I think that's a good thing too, because if we brought in a DP center forward, right? What would happen to Gozo's minutes? You know, like you don't want to bench a DP, or that would happen to Marchuk's minutes. And I think that we have a roster that young players can play, show their potential. And we're talking young players that scored goal last year and, could be the face of the U.S. men's national team one day. We're talking Xavier Gozo. We need to give him opportunity. And when I look at this roster too, I know people are like, oh, you only have one DP. To me, Diego Luna's a DP. He plays like a DP. And then that means, but then that means you only have 3 U22s. Xavier Gozo plays like a U22. So really, you look at, okay, roster designation, okay, yeah, we don't have everything filled. But how the players play, I think we have it filled. So I honestly think that this roster is 10 times better than last year's. And I looked at our starting lineup against San Jose, where we got thrashed 4-0 in that opener. And thank God the Chicho didn't score against us. I think his goal was like called back offside. So that was like the only good thing about that game, was Chicho didn't score against us. But I think that this roster is 10 times better. The right back's position, you got it locked down. Someone that knows what they're doing. Okay. And then the CMs are still strong. I think, yeah, Ojeda, we loved Ojeda, but Spearings, you have a ton of Europe experience there. Tons. Engel was a steal. I don't get how we don't talk about that enough, because he literally played 42 games for one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. If he was a free agent, he would probably be the number one free agent on market, like hands down. People would be like, Lucas Engel is a lot better than all these other defenders that I saw on the market, like Walker Zimmerman. I would say Walker Zimmerman's good, but also he's up there in age and all that. Nothing to knock on him, but just to my point, he would have been number one of the best free agents in MLS. But because of different mechanisms and re-entry drafts, we got him that way. I love the Taylor Booth signing. A lot of other teams would have loved to have an American young player that has played over 50 games in Europe. Honestly, he looks great in the preseason, and I like that. One of my worries last year is when Luna's not playing, who fills that role? And we switch some people into that left wing. I mean, Diogo got a lot of those minutes as well. But I'm excited for Booth. I think Booth, when Luna's not playing, put Booth right in. I'm happy. And I like it when they're youth as well. Diogo, you didn't want to see him develop. I want to see Taylor Booth develop. Okay, if he's making mistakes but still bringing that energy, I'm A plus. So yeah, I'm a B plus as well. Like I said, we need Aiden back because we're so positive right now. But yeah, I would say that's our off-season grades. And next episode, we got to get Hayden and Jimmy and LD all healthy and back again, because they need to bring us down with some C's and D's and F's or whatever. But
I don't know,
is there
man.
anything else?
I can't picture LD being negative And I can't picture
Oh,
Jimmy
okay, yeah.
being negative either. Like those guys are super positive like me. I mean, last year at this time, we were like, I'm giving it this grade because I'm hearing rumors that we're going to get this or that. RSL already did all their moves, man. They've already
Yeah.
got it. That's another big thing. Like we're going into our final preseason match and we're gonna have the full roster. I love that.
Yeah, I will say Pablo did make a mention that, he has some players out, visa stuff happening. I don't think that game match day 1, we're gonna see our strongest lineup, but I will say that I like that the players are at least registered on the team. Like, we're not like, "Oh, but we're rumored to get a DP striker," like, this time of year, and then we wait 2 months, and and we're playing these players, as makeshift strikers, and Arias Piol, who I'm very high on still as well, had to play way more minutes at the beginning of the season than he probably should have. But still, I think he put in some good shifts. For our fans out there, I will say that we will have a bonus episode coming out this Thursday. And if you're not on Twitter or Instagram, maybe you can see what this bonus episode could be about. But I believe it was at a BYU basketball game where they took some pictures of Coach Bolton. It was football?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I saw grass. Is that who
It
that
was
was?
football?
Is that who
I
that guy
think,
was? I thought it was just two
yeah, I
random
think,
dudes in the stands that were flirting with cheerleaders.
no, it was Coach Bolton. Wait, football season's still going for college?
I, look who you're talking to, man. I don't know.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was like, I didn't think it was football. But
I'll
nevertheless,
find my tweet and
okay,
look at it again.
we are gonna have a bonus episode coming out reviewing the new, and I think I can say this, Maddie. We're gonna be looking at the new RSL home jersey for 2026, which honestly, I love the kits that we make. They're super unique. They don't look like highlighters or, plain. They show personality. And so we're going to get, I believe, Tyler Gibbons on the show, talk to Tyler about what's going in to the design, and pretty much have a great talk with him about you know, the new season and the new apparel for the first team. All good, Maddie? Or do you think we're d done for this episode? Any other comments?
Absolutely. I will see all of you rioters on Thursday night. Boom.
See ya. Okay, have a great one.